Hello, subscribers. Welcome to episode something of the Late Challenge podcast. 47, is that what we're on? I've literally just written that in a post and forgotten straight away. That's how good my memory is these days. We're trialing this going live, so you may be watching this live. There'll be a handful of people, but mainly so that for those of you who want to watch the free show and then come straight over and watch or listen to the Patreon show, this should help us to do that. So let us know whether it works out. We're doing it for the first time. As me and Rob have said all the way through doing this podcast, we are doing the whole Brendan Rodgers thing of building the plane and repairing it and then taking it apart and then putting it back together again
while
flying it. So things go wrong sometimes, and that's just the way it is. So we're just going to carry on chatting about what we were chatting about in the main show and get stuck into some of the stuff. We're going to talk about Michael Edwards coming back. We're going to talk about Xabi Alonso. I did want to have a chat though about, because we haven't had the chance to talk about this. Me and you haven't had the chance to talk about it, have we? The other than exchanging a few WhatsApp messages, the Champions League draw and the Europa League draw. Because I saw Carragher say this on their podcast or on Sky a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago. When everyone's looking at the league running, what everyone's forgetting is
what goes on around it.
There's European games to be inserted there, and they have a massive impact. We know what it's like. I remember under Rafa, it's mad when you think back, but I remember going to the Bernabeu when I was at the game, and we beat Real Madrid 1-0 at the Bernabeu, and we came home, and on this Saturday or Sunday we got beat by Middlesbrough away. We were crap, and Elzar played because we didn't have the squad to do it. But we know what it's like, don't we? And the reality is, if we could have hand-picked City's and Arsenal's draws, I'm not sure we'd have picked a better draw than that. City have got Real Madrid, which even if they beat them, they are two tough games playing against Real Madrid.
Yeah, no resting players there or any of that stuff.
And Arsenal have got Bayern Munich. And Bayern Munich's season is done in the league, isn't it, pretty much? Like I was looking at it before, and we'll get on to talk about Xabi Alonso, but they're like 10 points clear with 8 games left. And I went to do the maths of like, well, how many games do they need to win? And my brain was too tired, so I couldn't be bothered. But they're not far off just having that completely sewn up. So Bayern Munich will have to go all in to win the Champions League.
And Harry Kane always scores against Arsenal.
Yeah. So they're two massive ties for them, which they've got to navigate in amongst their league games. Did you see the, I think you might have sent it to me, I can't remember. It was a TNT Sport tweet saying, don't look now, Arsenal fans. So even if they beat Bayern, they've got a 14-day run-in that goes Chelsea at home, City at home, City away, Spurs away in 14 days.
Yep.
So even if you forget Chelsea at home, which is, could be a tough game, might not be, City at home, City away, Spurs away in a week.
And Spurs are still sniffing around the Champions League spots.
Well, I was thinking about this, even if they weren't, Spurs will go all in to ruin Arsenal's league, won't they?
Absolutely.
Imagine Postecoglou, that's not a team talk you need to do in front of that full, like, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Like,
good ground.
What a run that is to play, and we know how tough that is to do. And the reality is, I've been thinking about this for weeks. No one really talks about it. Even when we were on for the quadruple, and we're not now. A quadruple that includes the Europa League is nowhere near as difficult. I know everyone bangs on about the Thursday, Sunday thing, but the reality is, we played Sparta Prague in the last 16
that was a mismatch,
and beat them 11-2.
Yeah.
Like their goalie, I think, did we talk about this off air or on air?
On air, yeah. You were saying about how bad you thought he was, yeah.
Mate, the second leg did nothing to help me like change my mind that he'd won a competition. It's mad how bad he was. It's just, and that's the quality we're playing. And I was looking at, so we've drawn Atalanta, and I was just looking it up this afternoon. So if we beat them, we play either Benfica or Marseille in the semis. And bearing in mind, I don't know whether I said this before, but just to reiterate, if City and Arsenal win, they play each other in the semi-finals of the Champions League.
Which is perfect,
We know what that looks like, playing an English side in the Champions League.
That's a huge distraction as well, just in every respect.
Yeah.
It's not just the game, it's the build-up around it, it's the manager's interviews, it's the angst that the fans will feel, like it'll be all, it'll just be hyped to such a degree. And meanwhile, we can crack on winning games and creeping up the league again.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Well, and in the meantime, we're playing Atalanta, who, look, you've got to respect everyone. And this is another good thing for the United, like the positives to take from you getting beat by United. No more taking anyone for granted. Do you know what I mean? No more rolling up fans or players thinking we'll just beat these. But Atalanta are currently 6th in Serie A. They're 29 points away from top spot. And they've lost 2 and drawn 2 of their last 4 games. That's as we record this. Then if we beat them over 2 legs, we play either Benfica or Marseille. And now Marseille are 7th in France, 20 points behind PSG. Benfica do look like a proper outfit. They're only 1 point behind Sporting Lisbon at the top of the league in Portugal, and they've played the game more.
But we normally, touch wood, etc., do all right against Portuguese sides, don't we?
Yeah. Well, and at the end of the day, 2nd in Portugal, you take that in the semi-final of a European competition, don't you?
Yeah, like, so they're doing well domestically, but, their league, our league, levels, squads, etc. Because Atalanta are, 6th or something in their league?
Atalanta's 6th, yeah. But I think 9. They're 29 behind.
Yeah.
They've lost 2 of that and drawn 2 of the last 4, so not even in good form.
It's a bit of a weird trip for anyone who's actually, well done if you end up qualifying for this. You've got like a really reduced away allocation because I think it's work at the ground or something. So there's only going to be like about 750 Liverpool fans there.
Oh, really?
So there's that small concern around that, but again, like, we're very much at the stage now of the year, you know what I mean, where it's like everything's big, everything's massive. Football's the only thing you can think about, you know what I mean? You're going to Anfield absolutely buzzing. No one will need G'ing up anymore, will they? You know what I mean? No one needs to write. You don't need to write your pieces that you used to write G'ing everyone up, and me the same. Everyone is G'd up because of Klopp, because of the possibilities, because of what we can win, because of where we've reached and how we've reached it. The story is already incredible, isn't it, this season? It's like, I just find I seen how, I was on Twitter last night and I was looking at all the reaction to our game and seeing some really extreme opinions and all that, but seeing some mank stuff as well come through. And, you love to see it because Ten Hag had a smile on his face walking around the pitch. And I was thinking, yeah, we've seen our manager smile a bit more than you've seen your manager smile. I'd rather support us than support you. Do you know what I mean? Like, Klopp has been having the time of his life. We've been having the time of our lives. And it's just a blip, innit? It's just a blip. And there's so much to look forward to. And it's just back to one of them things where I just can't get away from the fact where I just think, I just feel dead lucky that we support us, you know what I mean? I just feel dead lucky that we get to do this, and that brings me on to actually I wanted to mention a tweet that I got from Dave Olar. So cheers, Dave Olar. And he just said this morning, the overwhelming feeling of disappointment we feel this morning is just a fraction of the disappointment Evertonians feel every morning. And I've talked about my mate before, haven't I? Colin, who's a Blue Nose. I was out with him on Saturday and he's so defeated by being an Evertonian. He's just like, he's had enough, do you know what I mean?
I'm not surprised.
He's just
I wouldn't still be doing it. I think it's like a form of self-harm at this point.
And now, like, like Daesh is like clipping people around the head and they're falling out with them and all this kind of stuff. Oh, yeah.
Players.
Patterson, yeah.
He's giving a clip around the ear. I see. Old school.
And it's not gone down well. And then someone told me to listen to this podcast and I haven't got to it yet and I'm gutted now because what he said about the stats sounded amazing and I don't know it properly now because I haven't had to go over it, so sorry mate if you're listening, but basically there's some kind of mad XG stat things kicking around that basically Everton are more likely to score when Calvert-Lewin isn't in the side. And I'm like, that's mad, isn't it? And I said, is that about right, Colin? And he was like, yeah, probably. He was like, we're terrible at scoring goals, like, basically.
Which is just, it's mad, that, isn't it? But I was thinking about this last week, because did you see one of my cousins tweeted message saying, because thingy, isn't it the lad who's on loan at Coventry who scored 2?
Yeah, Sims, yeah. Well, he's not on loan, he's gone.
Oh, was he gone if they sold him?
Yeah. So
not that he was good enough for Everton,
no,
but it just sums it up, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, he said it's just typical, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because he's like, we can't score goals, and the lad we got rid of is scoring goals against Premier League opposition as well.
Yeah, but you know, I keep thinking about this, the mad thing, and I've referenced it before. The mad thing about Calvert-Lewin is, do you remember when Ancelotti was there? And Calvert-Lewin basically turned into Inzaghi for 6 months. And it was like, I was like, is Ancelotti like some sort of striker whisperer? Like a horse whisperer? Like he just whispers things in their ears and they just become unbelievable footballers. But then that's gone. Like, has he forgotten everything Ancelotti taught him? I don't get it. Or do they play so differently to how they did when Ancelotti was there that he just doesn't get the best out of him?
Well, what you said about Dice, like you can imagine, you know, he obviously is old school, isn't he, basically? And, you know, before he was associated with Everton, I quite enjoyed, like, you know, some of the stuff that he used to say and thought he was quite an interesting fella. Now he's, like, you know, bolted to Everton, so, you know, I'm slightly less interested, like. But what was I going to say about him? There's, I forgot.
Well, while it's coming back, because I think that the theme of this is interesting, because I've seen that it's some Chelsea fans who want Pochettino gone and they want Mourinho back. But at the same time, Mourinho's been sacked by Roma, and did you see last week someone tweeted us? And it's mad. I only found out he was their manager a few weeks ago. Rafa's lost his job. He was manager of Celta Vigo. Yeah. And I was just thinking about the likes of him and Mourinho, and just thinking, I think you're just showing that era of football management is gone. Like, you're managing. Have you seen Rooney talk recently about how different it is managing this generation of footballers? Because it's completely different. I think you mentioned about the changing rooms and stuff, and like they all have their own plug-in for the phone. Well, Rooney was saying like they weren't allowed phones in the dressing room when they were playing, and now he's having to manage people and go, you can't have your phone in the dressing room, and they're like, well, I don't want to play for you then if I'm not allowed my phone, because my phone's the most important thing in my life. Imagine Mourinho trying to, and I was thinking about this about Chelsea. If you brought Mourinho into that squad full of young lads who were on 8-year contracts, half of them aren't in the squad, half of them don't get a game, and you go to Mourinho, you sort these out, and you know already the lads he likes to manage are like the John Terrys and the Didier Drogbas and the Frank Lampards who run through a brick wall for you. He's going to have young lads going, nah, you're not for me, mate.
But he's not in a position to fall out with them either, is he?
No,
when
exactly.
they're on an 8-year contract.
Yeah, because they'll be like, well, I'm here
Can't
longer
go
than
in
you.
and start like throwing things round and saying you're this and you're that, because they just go, I'm on an 8-year contract, mate. I'm not bothered. Yeah. The Dice thing that I was going to mention was he said a quote the other week about he wasn't seeing enough like players prepared to hurt themselves to score goals. That was it.
That's proper old school, isn't it?
And I said to Colin, well, who's he referring to there? And he's like, I don't know. He said, I didn't even know he'd said that. And I was like, you've disengaged here, haven't you? And he was like, yeah. And like you can tell as well, like he doesn't say when he's like, you know, when you're on a night out and everyone's a red bar him. He just doesn't say, but you know that he's like bubbling, fuming about how our season's going. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like so.
But they'll be what I was saying on the main show. They'll be, regardless of who we get next, they'll just be made up when Klopp's gone, won't they?
Oh, yeah.
Because everyone will be thinking, I know the optimists amongst us are starting to tell ourselves a story that it could even get better, but they'll all be going, nah. Once, like with us with City, we're thinking once Guardiola's gone.
Us with Ferguson.
Yeah.
You know, like when he announced he was going and then decided he was staying again, it was like, no, go.
Yeah.
And then when he finally did go, you were like, this is it. Finally, this is it. This is when it crumbles. This is when it falls. This is when it all turns to shit. And then they got Moyes and it was glorious. You know what, when it, like, you know, on Facebook, when it provides the thing, like, you know, like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever, with posts that you've put up, it come up like 10 years ago, this weekend just gone. And it was me. I'd gone to Old Trafford and I took a picture of the flag saying the chosen one, and I was like, it's still there for Moyes, because you know because he was like Ferguson's choice. They all had to fall in behind it, didn't they? And then very quickly,
didn't he do a speech on the pitch saying
Moyes?
No, Ferguson with the mic, and he said like, get behind him. I'm handing over to him. I'm sure I've got a memory.
I can't remember now. It's a long time ago, isn't it? But he was. I just always remember like someone made a meme, and I just thought it was brilliant. And it was like Moyes sitting at a desk like this at Man United, like, and he had like this like mouse mat, And he just had, and he just had a bit of a weird look on his face. And someone had just put on above the top, "I have no idea what I'm doing." and that's exactly how it unfolded. It was just like, there are defo like horses for courses, aren't there, in football, and he should never have been anywhere near that job. And there's a constant conversation, isn't there? I don't know how much you listen to like the, like Talk Sport, for instance, and things like that. But I listen to it quite a lot. I just like hearing people talk about footy, and West Ham fans come on all the time about Moyes, and they're like, "I just hate his football. I can't stand him." And they're like, and then the presenters are always saying, "But he won you the Europa Conference, league or whatever it's called, and all that kind of stuff. And you're not in any date. What do you want? Where do you want to be?" And he's like, "Yeah, mate, it's not about that though. I just want to see like decent footy when I go to the game, and not this like play safe, the thing." Like it was this season, wasn't it? FA Cup, just come and lay down at Anfield with his West Ham side in typical Moyes fashion.
Yeah, but that sums up where footy's gone, doesn't it?
We got a comment just to confirm that what you said was correct. He told Old Trafford to support and get behind the chosen one.
There we go.
Well,
and funny. Look, there was something Klopp has done, which is brilliant and shows he's learned from the past. When people have said, "Are you going to be involved in choosing the next manager?" He's like, No, that's got nothing to do with me. It's not in my skill set. Do you know what I mean? I'm here to manage a footy team. But that sums up. So I keep saying this, banging onto this, like it's the whole like Ferguson being. It's unbelievable what Ferguson did managing United for so long. It's a myth. He didn't. He was more like the CEO. Like he
kept bringing in new minds and
coaches that would coach them day in, day out. The reality was Man United had a new head coach every 3 years during Ferguson's time there. He was an old-fashioned like senior manager, like a managing director. And I've seen Gary Neville even say this, that, like, we might have mentioned this, but they wouldn't hear his voice. So they had no chance to get bored of him, because he'd only come on a Saturday for the game, tell them what to do, and like give them a kick up the arse.
He was like the Emperor on Star Wars, wasn't he? Like just appear
and then get off.
Be a bit evil
and, like,
and then get off.
Banging on that, he'd be banging on the window like that overlooked Carrington from his office, like the training pitch. But I've heard players say it was like like blackened glass, so you couldn't even see if it was him. So I remember thinking, so he could just say to the cleaner or whoever,
just got a little
just
machine.
Go bang, go and knock on the window just to keep them on their toes. And be like, fucking hell, the boss is watching. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because that's where this is going now. Like I saw a Spurs fan the other day talking about it. That like Postecoglou isn't actually doing any better than Conte in the league points wise. Really, it's a much of a muchness. But they enjoy going to the match again.
And that's a big thing.
It's better watching the footy. It's better seeing goals get. Think about that even. Why do we go to watch footy? We want to see our own team score goals at a very base level, don't we? Well, that's way more fun. That you get to celebrate a goal.
And another base level thing is that you want to like your own manager.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that was like, I know people almost laugh at how often I go on about it now. And I don't think you're far behind, to be fair. But that was one of the problems with Roy Hodgson from day one, wasn't it? He was not likeable. He's coming in and he's telling us at our club, the club we support, the club we've invested everything in all our lives. Oh yeah, it's not very helpful that you protest against the owners.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Klopp
comes in and he's telling us, you can be the difference.
Yeah. Stay
in the stand, get behind the side. We get a draw and we're mocked for getting a draw, but he gets all the players and brings them to the cop and says, got the draw because of you. You're part of this. Yeah. You're part. And straight away, you're like, what?
But it shows the difference between these types of managers, doesn't it? Because Moyes, have you noticed Moyes recently doing the? He keeps making it's like he's become dead passive aggressive. Like he keeps saying things like, I can't imagine West Ham have got to the quarterfinals of a European trophy like 3 seasons on the run much in their history, and you're like, having a pop at your own club's history is probably not a good way to endear yourself to the fans, is it, mate? But he keeps doing it, and you're like, that's like, is this about keeping yourself in a job regardless of what the fans think of you? Because it's a well-paid, and maybe it is. I see this a lot. I see this with politicians. I remember going out and doing some campaigning years ago, and it was the first time I realised, this is a bit of a tangent, but it was the first time doing something comes into your mind. It seems obvious when you think it. but before you'd never thought of it. Like when an MP is trying to get re-elected, if they don't get re-elected, the next day they don't have a job. Like they literally don't have a job, and they've got a mortgage and they've got families and they've got bills to pay. So we've created a system that encourages them to do whatever they can to get re-elected, including lying. So it's a bit like that with footy managers, isn't it? It's like, is he thinking, well, it doesn't really matter what the fans think as long as the owners keep me in, because that's who ultimately decides. And I'm reminding them of how well I'm doing compared to how well West Ham have done in the past. And maybe they'll just be like, because I can't imagine West Ham fans love their owners either. So, but again, it's the reminder of how good we've got it, isn't it? When you stop and think about it. And look, that takes us nicely into a bit of a segue about what I wanted to talk about with Michael Edwards coming back. Because have you seen much of it? Did you read the article that The Athletic did?
Yeah.
It was really interesting to me that, like, the story basically, and I'm sure people out there have seen it, but in case they haven't seen the details, like, he'd basically ruled himself out, said he wouldn't come back, and they just kept on at him and, like, sat down with him face to face, Henry and Gordon, and were like, we'll create a role then that is something you want, and they're paying him. And I thought this was really interesting, like, and I think is an evolution. The reason I want to talk about it is, I think it's a much bigger deal than people are recognising, do you know, in the general fan base. Because when I started reading about what it is they've brought him in to do, and the power he's being given, it's a bit of a, do you know, we've had all these stories of Klopp has progressively become more powerful as the years have gone on.
Yeah.
And we've seen that in other clubs. So that was the same with Ferguson, that was the same with Wenger. And ultimately, even with Ferguson, you could say this, I think, even though Ferguson won at the end of his tenure, he left the club in a condition that wasn't great for the future. He was thinking about his legacy when he won that last title. I remember United fans saying, like, he went out and bought Robin van Persie so he could win the league in his last season. But Robin van Persie wasn't a good signing for Man United for the long term, because they knew he only had a season or two left in him, and it cost a lot of money. And what we're doing here, I think, whilst Klopp has come to the end of his run and he decided to go himself, it looks from this article, and it ties in with something I was thinking, that FSG have seen it as an opportunity to say, we want to make sure that the structure going forward is not built around any one manager. But that puts Edwards in a position then where he's like, one of the big things was he's being paid on a par with the manager, which has not been seen before in this type of role.
But he's not just working with Liverpool now, though, is he? It's like an FSG role. But this was like a Mike Gordon type role.
Well, that's it. He's basically taken over from Mike Gordon.
Yeah.
So even he controlled the way it was announced. It wasn't announced, and it's when you think about this, it wasn't announced by Liverpool because he's not a Liverpool appointment. It was announced by FSG.
Yeah, some of that doesn't entirely sit right with me, I've got to be honest with you.
Well, I wanted to ask you about it. So what do you think of it?
I don't like the stuff about the multi-club ownership, to be honest with you, because I've spoke to my mates about it, and the first line out of virtually every one of their mouths was, it's what you've got to do in the modern day, it's what we've got to do to compete. Man City are doing it, they're doing it, these are doing it. And I'm like, well, I'm just a football fan though, and I don't like it because I imagine being a fan of one of these clubs that randomly gets taken over and becomes a feeder club for another club, and just think, well, that's grim, isn't it? And
grim for footy generally.
And grim for them fans, definitely. Do you know what I mean? Like, so Daniel Storey from The Independent wrote a piece in February just about Troyes in France, who were owned by the City Group, and like, it's mad. Do you know what I mean? So like, they're signing players. The players are coming in. They're not even playing for them. They're going out elsewhere on loan. Lad's done well, and then he's going to City. And it's like, well, what are we for then? Like, what about us as a football club in our own right? Like, do you know what I mean? And I just think generally, like, it's something that should be resisted if we're all trying to be a bit pure about football. But football isn't pure, is it?
Well, do you remember it? It reminds me of when... Do you remember when... Because clubs in Spain for a long time have had a B team, haven't they? that plays in the lower leagues. Do you remember when Rafa suggested it for teams here?
Yeah.
Because he was like, I can't develop players in a reserve league. They need competitive football. So we should have B teams like in Spain. And everyone slated him. Like the wider football community slated him, saying, you're not respecting our lower leagues. You're not. What about the other sides in those divisions? You're demolishing footy, basically. But that's effectively what's happening all around the world now, isn't it, with these structures?
But then they had that mad, whatever it was, like Bag of Chips Cup or whatever, didn't they? Where, you know, like lower league teams play.
Oh, yeah. The EFL Cup. Is that it?
No. McCain's or something, or...
Your brain's just gone, bag of chips, McCain's. That's what's happened there.
But I don't know, I just think, like, it just feels like we're constantly changing football all the time, do you know what I mean? And, like, new rules, new ways of running the competition, scrap this competition, bring this one in, multi-club ownership, this, that, the other, put the prices up, do that. And it's just like, I just feel like if you're someone, like, my age or above, it's that easy to be like, why is football making it so hard for me all the time? I want to love it. I want to keep going. It means loads to me. I tried to deny that it did, but actually it did. Like, leave it alone a little bit, do you know what I mean? And like, you know, it's some of this, isn't it? Why we're staring down the barrel of a regulator now. But even that has been sort of sidetracked because potential election, and then Labour are now electioneering by saying, well, if we get in, we'll sort that. They've stopped sorting it. Nothing's happening now. Why is it taking so long? Because, you know, there's 1,000,001 footy fans out there who feel the same way, who are going, this is what's needed. Oh, and if Labour are going to sort it, well, that adds to the power of, I might vote for them then. But yeah, I mean, the piece I was referencing was this, so they bought this Brazilian Matino, 18-year-old, didn't play a single minute for the club. And yeah, I think it's pretty much, it's him, as the piece goes on, when you read around it, he's likely to end up at City. And it's like, you know, a club shouldn't be treated like that. They're a proper, you know, they're a club that exists,
club,
that exists for their community with long-standing fans and all of that kind of stuff. And I just think, look, there are different ways of going at it, like, and it's gone on a long time, and it's, you know, again, it's one of those sort of nuanced subjects, but I just think on a surface level, it doesn't feel like a nice thing or a good thing for Liverpool to be associated with. And already it seems that the line is likely to be out of Liverpool. It's not us, it's FSG, which is that was a long-winded way of saying I didn't like that.
Yeah.
When they said about
not
it.
To do with us.
Yeah, because that's it. Feels a bit of a get out to say, you don't worry about that, because that's not Liverpool, it's FSG.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't you knobheads be protesting about this? It's nothing to do with you.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. But that's interesting though, isn't it? Because then, so bring it away from that.
The Edwards thing, of course, it seems positive, doesn't it? Because, you know, he's credited for like an unbelievable phase of transfer history. There does seem to be a bit of an underlying story that maybe we'll never get to about relationships, and there are some reporters that maybe went rogue a little bit and said stuff away from everyone else, where it was suggested that, you know, maybe certain people didn't see eye to eye, and maybe that's why Edwards left, and maybe that's why Ward left, and all the rest of it. And now we're coming back around full circle, and he's going to come back when Klopp leaves. I thought it was quite nice, you know, I get cynical sometimes. I thought it was quite nice that it was sewn in, whether it was in this piece or another one, that he's met with Klopp and they've spoken about the current state of the club and all that. And Klopp spoke about him, didn't he, as well?
Yeah.
He put some quotes down on the record, and it was like, well, that smooths over any of that chat, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, they're sound with each other, you know.
Yeah. But this is the funny thing about anything like that, isn't it? Like, I often think this, and we've both worked inside corporate environments, and that's ultimately what it is. It's a huge corporate environment.
There will have been disagreements.
Of course there will. Like, I think about all the partners who I used to work for inside a law firm. Jesus Christ, like, the clashes they used to have, all the egos in there, who's going to be the boss, who gets the final say. I remember even as a junior lawyer going to them, aren't we all on the same side though? Like, shouldn't we all be trying to find what's the best like solution for the law firm as a whole, rather than use all trying to look after your own interests of your own team? And like, you'd be having a pint with someone off the record, and I'd be like, "That's not how it works, Paul." Do you know what I mean? The money I make every year isn't linked strongly enough to how well the firm does. It's linked to how well I do and my team does. So if I have to fight to have a client registered to me and not like some other knobhead partner in the firm, that's what I'm going to do. And when you grow up through that,
it's not even corporate environments though, is it? It's just life generally. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how many great bands that you've loved have suddenly like click of the finger and they're done, and they're not doing that next album that they said they were going to do, or the tour that you were expecting to go and see isn't happening now. Why? Musical differences. Yeah. That old classic. Like, you know, so many people have said to me, "Wow, how come you left it on for that?" I've started saying now for a
musical
laugh, musical differences.
Yeah.
Because I'm so bored of answering the question. Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I get that the people who ask me, it's the first time they've ever asked me, but it's like, but my experience is loads of people ask me, "Well, how come you left that? How come you left that?" And it's like, yeah, just musical differences, and then go, "Nah, just did."
Yeah, but it's a good answer, isn't it? And it's funny. I was thinking about this last week because I heard Noel Gallagher talking about this a while ago, saying it's one of the reasons the music industry is changing so much is because, think about it, if you're a kid, right, and you're growing up and you're loving music, and you can sit in your room with a laptop and you can make good music with your own instruments and your own mixers and all that, that's well easier than starting a band. Anyway, because the reality is, being in a band is dead hard. He went, because even if you get on with the other lads in the band or the other girls in the band, you're not just in a band with them. You're in a band with every time they get a new girlfriend or a new boyfriend or a new partner. Now that person's influencing the band and they're whispering in their ear. And you think about, like, Joe, even the documentary, the Beatles documentary that came out, and you got to see firsthand Yoko coming and sitting in the middle of a recording session, and Linda McCartney coming and sitting in the middle of a recording session, and
George Harrison bringing a load of monks.
Yeah. And you can see them by that point, they're all looking at each other, sort of going, "Fucking hell, like, do we have to do this?" And he's like, "Well, I'm going to marry her, so she's more important to me than you." And it's like, "All right, well, what should we do then?" They're like, "Well, let's just end the band because this doesn't work." And I was only thinking how it will become a thing in our lifetime. I guarantee you this will happen, where the way you get things coming around full circle, and it's like fashion comes back. Like my niece, who's 18, is currently wearing clothes that my sister stashed 20 years ago. She bought a leather jacket that was like cost a load of money and put it away because she didn't want to bin it, and now that's come back into fashion. And she went to me, my niece was like, "Oh, I want it. Have you seen this leather jacket I want? It's like 400 quid. And my sister was like, "I've got one." And went and got it out the loft or whatever, and was like, "They are." It comes back in. There will come a point in our lifetime, Joe, in 20 years or 30 years, where some kids will realise that putting a band together and putting the effort in and putting a band together will blow everyone's socks off. Because it'll be like, "Oh my God, do you remember when there used to be bands and people just weren't making music on laptops and using AI?" And there'll be the rawness of like live music and someone with a guitar and a bass and a drum set, and everyone will be like, "Oh my God." And me and you will be like, "This is what music was like when we were growing up. This is all we had." And that'll just come around full circle.
We've already been to a stage where, you know, mad tangent this, but we've already been to a stage, haven't we, where guitar bands were definitely unfashionable and sort of dropped off, if you like. Yeah. And, you know, that's a type of music that I like, so I carried on listening to what I like. But, you know, went to see Cast on Saturday, and obviously Cast are an old band now, do you know what I mean? A 90s band or whatever, still going, still doing stuff, brought out a new album recently, etc. But what I thought was nice was the support was the Kairos, who I would highly recommend everyone, who a Scouse band, or nearly enough Scouse band, young, punky, you know what I mean? And it's like the lead guitarist is unbelievable. The lad, the singer has got a great voice. And I'd recommend, if you like that type of music, go and check them out. They've got some good tunes. But I just really like that combination of essentially our fellas, playing the hits and all that, throwing in some new ones, etc., and everyone loving it. And the audience was definitely of a certain age.
Where was it?
Mountford Hall, Liverpool University, yeah.
Oh, wow.
But then I liked that the Kairos supported because they're like, you know, the new ones or whatever, you know what I mean?
So what were they like? What were Cass like?
Good, yeah, good.
Did they just play new stuff or old stuff too?
No, it was all, you know, mix of everything, like, do you know what I mean? You can't, when you've been going that long and you've got that, like, sort of, you're turning up for a gig on a Saturday night, you can't just play the new album, can you?
I've seen people do that though, and I felt like going to see them afterwards and saying, lads, just play your hits, right?
Exactly.
And throw your new stuff in between the hits, so everyone's happy then.
That's essentially what they did. Because I know of people who've been in bands that they end up hating the hits and they hate playing it. Do you know what I mean? They'll never say it publicly, but loads of them do. And so I get that there's probably some of that, and obviously the newer stuff is newer to them as well. Do you know what I mean? Just to bring it back to the ownership thing, we're now getting comments on the Patreon show, which is great. So Kyle's just saying, Kyle Turner, do we want to be left behind though? Much like when United got ahead of steam, ahead of everyone with the commercialisation. You know, is this because that's what Edwards has sort of said, isn't it, about the multi-club? Like, we need to do it. I'd love to just know why though, as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, so my concerns that I've just voiced, I'm not saying me, there are other people who've got the same concerns as that piece. There's loads of stuff out there, loads of people with concerns. Just tell us a bit more. Like, why? What edge does it give you? Why do we definitely need to do it? I'd just like to know that. And is there not a way that kind of information could be disseminated to make us feel a bit easier about it, those who've got concerns?
Do you know what?
If you said to me, why are we commercialising like United did that time? There was a time when I can remember Liverpool fans didn't want to do that. We're not going to be like them with a mega store and all
100%.
that. We're not going to open shops all around the world. And then obviously we've had to stay with the times type of thing.
Well, I must have told you about when my dad wrote to Rick Parry.
Really?
I've never told you this story. He wrote to Rick, and this both sums up my dad, Rick Parry, and how badly our football club used to be run. I'm sure it was Rick Parry. He wrote to him so do you remember when the advertising hoardings around the ground? Like, and for young people, anyone young watching, they won't even know what we're talking about, apart from watching old clips of old footy. They were just cardboard, like bits of wood, weren't they?
Yeah, they weren't spinning around and lighting up and all the rest of it.
Yeah, exactly. And like, so then they became these, like, it was when they became these electronic ones. And my dad, like, sat on row 6 or 7 of what is now the main stand, so it's the old paddock. So he's like, eye line with them. So he wrote to Rick Parry to complain, saying that they distract me. And that sums up my dad. He's like, it's not all about you, mate. Do you know what I mean? And Rick Parry, 2 things. And I remember when he told me, and I said at the time, there's 2 things wrong with this. The main one is he's got time to reply to you. He shouldn't be replying to you.
Did he reply?
Yeah. He wrote him a letter back. I'm like, that's the CEO of Liverpool, basically. He shouldn't have time to reply to some fella who's just complaining about
what did he say?
About modernisation of football. He agreed with him. He said, I agree with you, Eric, like, but sadly, a bit like this is the way the game's going, and we have to go with the times.
Yeah, well, I mean, Ian said there, he said it's only a financial edge. Just means you're going to save some money on transfers, basically.
Yeah, but I think this is one of the main reasons they won't do what you've just said is what is the reason? It's to get around the rules, and that's what. And look, we complain about City, don't we? But then we're like, Klopp even said about the on pitch stuff. So you're saying you can barge people out the way now all the time? Well, maybe we need to start barging people out the way then.
Yeah.
And I think that behind the scenes, FSG have gone, we've been waiting for them to sort out proper FFP for ages. So why don't we just start doing what everyone else is doing?
What's the first advert you can ever remember seeing at Anfield?
At the side of the pitch?
Yeah.
God, I can't remember any.
Because I don't know why I remember this, but like, so my first ever game at Anfield, I can remember standing on the cop, looking at the Annie Road, and above the stand there was an advert up there, Wonder Fuel Gas.
How funny would it be if there's someone out there now going, that was my company, that?
But that was, I think, it was British Gas. I think that was the like slogan for them. I think British Gas, Wonder Fuel Gas. Yeah, nice. I think. But I just remember seeing that, and I've no idea why that stuck with me all this year. We talked about that before, haven't we? Like, why do you remember? Space in your head, though. Why do you remember? I know exactly. Why do you remember stuff like that? Yeah, I can't find my keys in the morning. You know what I mean? But
next time someone like you can't remember someone's name, say to them, I can't remember your name, but I do remember Wonder Fuel Gas, and see if it makes them feel any better.
Oh, I like this now. Look at it. Oh, look at this. This is nice. Be nice, wouldn't it, if like all the Patreon crew started diving in on the live behind the paywall live. I feel like we've got a little crew going on, because Calgan has said, are you off to watch Marine next week with no Premier League, Robbo? Prescott v Marine, Liverpool's Senior Cup semi-final, 9th of April. Well, I didn't know about that, but I've I like both of those sides, so I might
big derby that.
I might get myself along to that.
Yeah.
Don't know who to support. I'll have to stand on the halfway line with an half and half.
Well, yeah, imagine that. But we've got 2 weeks now. This is the thing, haven't we? This is. I'll be saying this. I'll be banging on about this. International breaks and in the summer. This is when the late challenge comes into its own.
Yeah.
When all the other football podcasts have got nothing to talk about, so they're trying to like fill time. We've got all kinds.
Ian's throwing in Davey Live for cabs there. Was that advertised at the ground? I don't know if it was at the ground. I remember the jingle.
I remember
708 708. If you need a cab, just let us know. Call Davey Live for cabs. Yeah. We've done this before, haven't we? We've done adverts that we randomly remember from childhood, I think.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
Let's not do it again.
Yeah, we don't need to. Well, back on the ownership thing then, because it is interesting I think that the most encouraging thing, aside from the multi-club stuff that's worrying for the sport, is it's interesting how highly he's spoken of. Did you see that? Like, and it was funny.
Oh yeah, United had tried to get him, Chelsea had tried to get him.
Yeah, like 777 company that 777 partners that they're trying to buy Everton. They tried to get him, and he was just saying no to everyone. So it's interesting that they got him, and it was interesting that even in the article that the Athletic said, it was like, this information has come from anonymous sources and people who don't want to be named, and you're like, so it is interesting that people still are prepared to leak stuff to journalists, isn't it? I always think that's a bit mad, that. But so someone gave them an email that Gordon had, I don't know, like that. The thing with something like that is it's going to get out, isn't it? Because anyone in the organisation can give you that email. But Mike Gordon said of Edwards, because he was, he wouldn't be handing it. He wouldn't be stepping away from the club unless he was handing it to someone like top level. And he described him as one of the brightest minds in world football. It's interesting, I don't know. That's how highly he's rated. But the other thing I did look at, I thought, because Joey's bringing it in. So the thing is, he didn't want to be the sporting director again, the day-to-day operator. So he brought in an old mate, Richard Hughes from Bournemouth.
Who'd conveniently already throwing his cards in.
Well, he'd conveniently already done that, which that always makes me laugh as well. When it's like, oh, he's already handed in his notice at Bournemouth. That's a coincidence, isn't it? Yeah. But then, like the upside of it is, which I thought was good. Like he's already got a good relationship with Xabi Alonso's agent, because he's also the agent of Iraola, who's at Bournemouth now. And it says he's also well placed to resolve Van Dijk's future, because he's dealt with his agent, because he represents 2 Bournemouth players. But the bit that was in it that before it got to that, where it's like that comforted me a bit, was when it was like, oh, we've done deals with Bournemouth while he's been their sporting director. And I was like, yeah, but we were selling players to Bournemouth, weren't we having their pants down a bit? Yeah. Like they overpaid for, remember they bought Brad Smith from us? They bought Jordan Ibe and Solanke. Now Solanke's turned out all right, but the other 2, they well overpaid for them, didn't they? But it's interesting that just sort of made me go, why is that a good thing that he did those deals?
But who knows, the murky world that we don't really know what goes on, do we? And as I've said 1,000,001 times on this thing, and probably will be doing until the grave, they tell us what they want us to know half the time these days, do you know what I mean? And it's not government, it's not, you know what I mean, it's footy at the end of the day. So they don't need to, they only need to tell us what we need to know type of thing. There's a million more things we don't know about and we never will.
Yeah, you're right. And where are you with, we've got about 10 minutes left, where are you with Alonso? Because
Still the same place, get him.
You want him?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we said it all before. If he goes on to win that title after where they were previously, he's clearly got something. I mean, to me, he's clearly had something all the way along. It feels like he's really like focused. You know, he's like, right, I'm going into management now, and I'm going to go and do this. Then I'm going to go and do that. And I just don't. Some of the narrative being sown about, you know, like he'll go to Bayern and all this, and he won't want to follow Klopp and all that. I've floated some of that myself, I think, on previous shows, but now I just don't feel like that. I think he'll definitely take it. Based on nothing, like, I've got no insight. It's just how I feel currently, and how I feel currently is he'll back himself that he's elite, and if he wins the title in Germany and knocks, you know, Bayern Munich on their arse in doing so, he's got every right, hasn't he? And also, like, I think when we first talked about it, like, I don't see any other standout candidates either. I just see Zabi and think, well, not only is he doing really well, but he's got the link with us, and we love there being a link with us. And we talked about before about, you know, you want to love your own manager, you want to like your own manager, you want to feel there's something there. Well, there already is. He's played for us. He's won the European Cup with us. We like him. You know, his song was always still intermittently coming up in places, in bars, in pubs or whatever, even before this link. Like, there's someone on the Kop, and I'd love to just put a face to the voice. It's an old fella, and he's got like an older Scouse accent, if you know what I mean. And he just seems to start what sounds like on his own random songs at random times, just when there's a bit of quietness or whatever. And like fairly recently, there was just a game where it just dipped a bit and the sound went down a little bit, and we're all watching the game, and you just heard this Scouse old school voice, definitely the same fella. Sort of, I'm in 304 and he's down and to the left from where I am somewhere. And just there's, everyone wants to know Alonso. And it was just boss. It was like, you know, like, just like a message from somewhere. It's going to be him. It's going to be him.
Yeah.
And it
got
means,
a song.
It means nothing, that does it? But I just liked it. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. It's just like a nice moment where I thought, it's going to be Zabi. It's going to be Zabi.
Yeah, well, I think if it's not him, I sent you a thing the other week, didn't I? Which I haven't got to hand now, but like there was a data analytics thing of showing who's the best match.
Weird piece, that.
Yeah, but it's funny. It's funny, isn't it? Because like when you see how the data-driven stuff works, and it was saying who's a better match and all of that, but it showed the flaws in data as well. That like, yeah, but that's not taking into account what we're talking about. Yeah. Which I think is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Like one of the reasons Klopp was so successful at Liverpool is we wanted him. Like, the fan base wanted him because of what he'd done. And like the alternative to Alonso, I think that the top choice other than Alonso is Sporting Lisbon's manager, who I'd never even heard of before this all happened. It's Amorim. And like, apparently his style is similar to Klopp's and all the rest of it, but he wouldn't have what Alonso has got coming in the door, would he? He'd come in the door with some people going, he's good, him, you know, like, and everyone else going, oh, well, we'll see. And I don't really know. Whereas Klopp already had this reputation and the personality, and Alonso's got that. You said, like, we like him. I don't think it's not even just as simple as that. I don't know anyone who doesn't like him. I've never met a Liverpool fan who doesn't like Xabi Alonso. It's just it's a question of how much you like him, isn't it?
And also as well, you know, this set, you know, we always talk about, you know, flying the plane while you're building it and all that, the famous Brendan Rodgers line. Well, Brendan Rodgers is an example to these owners of when you follow data or follow something else and go and get a manager and don't really consider what the fan base think. So Brendan Rodgers did all right, and we had that unlikely title challenge, and then everything fell off the rails, and then we get Klopp. But there were people, a significant amount of people, who were never convinced about him. And that played a part in the downfall for me, because when we're not unified as a fan base, we can be a bunch of knobheads.
Yeah.
And you know, like, so there were people who had daft names for him, or were jumping on every single thing he said or did, or, you know, like, there was the documentary, of course, and that got slated, and things that he said in that, and the fact that he had a painting of himself, and all of those things. And a lot of that came back to me, though. They didn't think he had the credentials in the first place. They didn't think his CV was strong enough. They didn't think he had the Liverpool link, whatever. So there might be other people, statistically, and that a big arrow points to them and says they should be the Liverpool manager. But they haven't got that Liverpool thing about them. They haven't got that link. They haven't got that love. They haven't got the reason we all love Xabi. And then Xabi, if he wins the league in Germany, well, he's ticking every box, isn't he? And, you know, that game in Europe the other night made me laugh. You know, the fact that, like, they come back from the death in the last moments of the game and win. And it's like, okay, there's another one ticked off.
Tweet about it. That's like, yeah. That's almost like he's gone. Because he was playing Karabag or something.
Karabag, yeah.
You're like, yeah, I reckon he's gone here. But I need a big comeback here to show Liverpool fans that we've got that. I've got that in my locker as well. Yeah, I think it's fascinating, and it's mad that it's still on for us to play them in the final, isn't it?
Well, Ian's asked there, because I know you were a banger of the drum for this. He said in the comments, "Will Pep Lijnders coming back now? Is that now back in play if Edwards is involved?"
It doesn't feel like that, does it?
It doesn't feel like that now, when he's done the interview saying he's done and he's off and all that. And I just don't think there's going to be like any jack-in-the-box moments with either Lijnders or Klopp. People are still saying it, aren't they? Like, you go for a pint and people are still saying, imagine Klopp changed his mind, though. Imagine, like, he just says, you know, he does a Ferguson, essentially. It's not going to happen.
No, I don't think it will, and I don't think it should. Like, no. His answer to it is what I'd think. Like, if he changed his mind now, I think that'd go against everything he is. I think I'd lose something for him. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you can't say everything you've said and then change your mind, because what you've said still stands. He had it again post-match. Like, Joe, some journalist asked him the question in the post-match press conference.
Via Sport or whatever they were.
Do you no, not even that one about the intensity. He said, like, basically, like, do games like this make you want to stay in the game more, or make you want to get out because they're too much? And he was like, you could see he was a bit exasperated about it. He was like, maybe I need to give the answers to why I'm leaving in German, and you can translate it into English. Maybe that'd help somehow. It's got nothing to do with that. Like, it's not like I lose a game, I want to leave. I win a game, I want to stay. It's for much wider reasons. Like, it's life choices. This, like, we went into it on the big show we did about it, didn't we? Like, so if he suddenly went, oh, I do want to stay.
Yeah, actually,
I don't want to see me grandkid. Joe, I spent a bit during the international break. I spent a bit of time with my son and my grandkid, and I thought, nah, I'd rather do the Goodison thing again next year. I just don't think that's going to happen.
I don't either.
And I think it's not. I do think there's like a nice, I don't know, there's just something nice about it. It is like a movie. There's like been a nice story arc to it. When you see a boss series and they finish it. You watched Ted Lasso, didn't you?
Yeah.
Like, Joe, Ted Lasso finished, and I was because I got onto it late to watch them all dead quick. I then was watching, I do this, like, get obsessed watching, like, all the interviews with the cast and all that. And I was watching interviews with Jason Sudeikis, and it was the same, but in a completely different environment. People being like, you've got to do another one. And he was like, I don't, though, do I? Like, I'm going to sit down with the other writers and talk about it. But it's got its perfect story arc. Like, there is some... And think about the things in history, like comedies especially, where they were just perfect. And the genius was in leaving it.
Yeah, definitely.
And not coming back and not doing another series. And, like, we mentioned before we started recording, The English Office. Like, 2 series and a couple of specials. It's like, leave it as it is. Fawlty Towers, maybe the greatest example of all time. Just leave it where it is. It's just the perfect story, and it's got everything we need, and we now just walk away from it and say, thanks, that was great, that.
Phoenix Nights.
And we look back. Yeah, there we go. And we are in a position, this is the difference, and a massive part, massively to do with him as well, to do with Klopp. Like, he's not done what Ferguson did. He's not leaving with us in a position where it could all just fall apart. He literally stayed an extra season so that he could make sure it's all set up. FSG have learned a lot of lessons. All of this stuff behind the scenes, it really comforts me. I know there's all of the concerns you've got, I'm with on the wider football sense. But from the way Liverpool Football Club is run going forward and the structure, and you see what's happened to Man United.
There's still some bits, isn't there? What's like Trent hasn't got a new deal yet, has he? And then there's the age of Van Dijk, the age of Mo Salah.
Yeah, but
there's still bits there to deal with.
But I'm not that concerned about any of them anymore, because I think me and you've even said, take those 3 examples, right? I think Van Dijk will just sign a new deal. I'd be amazed if Trent doesn't sign a new deal. Why wouldn't Trent sign a new deal at the club he's at? He's already vice captain. He's a future captain of Liverpool. He could play his entire career. He could go anywhere he wants in the future. But he's more than likely, I'd be amazed if Xabi Alonso comes in and he doesn't end up playing in midfield. He could even say as part of signing his new deal, I want to play in midfield, couldn't he? We've already got Conor Bradley coming through that solves the right back issue anyway. I don't see that being an issue. And I do think we've reached a point now where if Liverpool decided to sell Mo Salah and we got 100 million quid for him, I don't think there'd be the kickoff that there would have been in the past.
No, I don't actually know. I think it would start to make more sense. As much as I wouldn't want him to go, and there's the stat the other day, wasn't there? 7 seasons running with 20 goals or more, and that's better. That's better than Rushy, isn't it? And it's I put a tweet out saying I haven't witnessed young enough to have watched Rushy on the telly, and then old enough to have sort of been there for the latter end of it as well. I just thought I still look at it. I look at that list sometimes and just think no one's ever getting near any of these records. And then a fella's turned up and he's just bang goals every season, season after season after season, and he's breaking Ian Rush records, and it's wow. Do you know what I mean? More respect needs to be on this fella's name. Do you know what I mean? 100%. We've done that before, though, haven't we? Done a whole show on respect for Mo Salah.
But I still keep going back to I don't think he can do it enough. But my point on that, of those 3 issues that need to be resolved, I think they'll all be resolved positively one way. Because I can see Salah staying. Because the reality is, when it comes down to his age and the type of contract he wants and stuff, there's always that. It's tough, isn't it? I think more and more footy fans are getting onto the fact now, because there've been so many examples of the player just being given the contract at other clubs mainly, and then just falling off a cliff because their legs have gone. And we've got enough that we can point to who've gone to other clubs where we've decided to let them go, and then their legs have fallen off at another club, and you can imagine everyone behind the scenes going, good decision that, wasn't it? And I guess that's where data on
there's a thing as well now. I think there's another difference now as well, isn't there, in that there was almost an assumption at one point, certainly from sections of the media, of course he just goes to Saudi. And now it's quite a few of the lads who've gone to Saudi are not for me this. Yeah. I'm coming back. Yeah. Henderson's already at Ajax and all the rest of it. Noises that various others, not happy out there as well. So if he wasn't thinking twice about it anyway, he certainly will be now, you would think, wouldn't you? So... But
the funny thing that has only just popped into my head is, I think we all got really obsessed with Saudi for a while, but there'll be other big clubs who want to buy Mo Salah at the end of the day, aren't they?
100%.
But then who knows? Because I'm thinking Real Madrid. If you're Mo Salah, maybe you'd go to Real Madrid, but they're probably going to buy Mbappe, so they're not going to buy Salah the same year they buy Mbappe, are they? But so either way, I think it'll be sound, and I think that's part of why this is a good end to the story, and it is the right time for it. And going back to the main show and all that, we've got 10 to 15 games to really end it in a way that makes the story perfect, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We have the opportunity now with the lesson we've just learned to kick up the arse, all the rest of it, to come back and go, look, go and win, including the Europa League. You probably need to win 13 games and draw. You could draw 2 in the Europa League, win 3, win 10 in the league. You finish the season league champions, Europa League champions, Carabao Cup winners. What a way to go out.
And the league with people in the ground.
Yeah. And then the open top bus tour to wrap it all up.
Yeah.
It's a nice end to the story, isn't it? I think that's where we end up.
That's all right.
That's it. We'll leave it there. Thank you, as always, for watching. We have got an international break coming up, so I'm conscious we have talked a lot about footy recently. If you want to hear people who've been listening and watching for a while, if you want to hear some random stuff over the next couple of weeks, let us know. I've been feeding some conspiracy theory stuff to Robbo about the royal family, which you're desperate to do, I can tell. Let us know what you want to hear.
The royal family are crap at Photoshop.
Yeah, that's what I love about all that stuff. It just makes me laugh so much. Like, surely if they wanted to, they could have done it better. Anyway, we can get into that. You tell us what you want to hear, what you want us to talk about. We'll be back next week. We'll see you then. Take care.